All right, guys, let's talk about it. I want to talk to you about, I'm going to tell you how I got two UX jobs during the pandemic. All right, let's do this. What's up, unicorns? Eric Abram here. All right, today I'm going to be talking to you about how I got two UX jobs during this pandemic. But let me give you a little backstory first. So back in January, my wife and we went to Austin and we had a good old time. We stayed there for I want to say 3 to 4 days. And I fell in love with it. I thought she fell in love with it too. We kind of both liked it, but I was like, yo, this could be the place we could live. I really, really like it here. You know, I would love to move here. And she said, the only way we're moving here is if you get a job here. I was like, challenge accepted. So, me not feeling, as one would feel at their first, their first gig at their UX job. Like I didn't feel really included. I wasn't part of the conversations, wasn't brought in on these meetings and decisions. I just felt like, you know what, man, maybe I do want to actually move. So that's when I started the whole process of applying online to jobs in Austin. I'm looking around, I'm contacting people on LinkedIn who also live in Austin and ask them about hey, how is the job market? How do you like living there? Et cetera, et cetera. Because when you visit, you get a glimpse of how beautiful Austin is from a tourist perspective. So I wanted to know how it was from an actual living perspective. So I did that, contacted a few people, had a few conversations. And so that's when, during this whole pandemic, I applied to this one job there. Very small, kind of a startup. They specialize in, I want to say, HR tech, something like that. I really can't tell you the name of the company. Sorry. But so I applied to there. Didn't hear anything for a while. Then I got a call back saying, hey, we want to interview you, blah, blah, blah. So this is all during the pandemic. This is back in, I want to say between March and May, this whole process was started. So while this going on, so I got the call. This is all through Zoom. This is all online. I got a call on the phone hey, we want to interview you, blah, blah, blah. So we set up a date. So I did my first Zoom interview. And, this company's very small. They don't have a lot of people. And I noticed that they had a product manager and they also had a director of marketing. And so during the whole interview process, they were saying hey, you're going to meet with so-and-so, they're the director of marketing. That's who you're going to be working with directly. I'm just say what? Well, number one, that was the first red flag. I was director of marketing, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm okay, but you have a product manager. I don't work under product, I work under the marketing side. I was okay. I'm diving a little deeper into their process, and come to find out, they never had a UX designer from the jump. All they had was a graphic designer who worked, I don't think they were even in the USA. I think they contracted this person out of country. So basically you had the marketing manager person, director of marketing, and a graphic designer creating an app. This is right. They were designing the application. And I'm thinking have you guys done any user research? Have you guys done any, research studies? Have you brought people in to do any testing? Have you done anything? I basically asked them, have they basically done anything related to qualitative data as far as, UX perspective goes? And the answer was no. I was just really? You guys get all this and you developed the app, put the app out, but you didn't do any research or testing. I thought that was weird, but at the same time, I could understand because they're not really UX people. And so it kind of made sense. So when I was asking them a lot of like UX questions about different things, they really couldn't answer them. And I was just like, man, I don't know. I'm not sure about this place now. But I kept forward in the interview process. I kept forward in the interview process. And that's when I landed this second interview. And the second interview was with, the director of marketing, and then the head of product was also there. Actually, I did 3 interviews. I did one with HR, the second one with the marketing director, and then the third one with HR, marketing director, and head of product. So I did a total of 3. But the second interview was with director of marketing, right? That's when I asked all those questions. She really couldn't answer them, et cetera, et cetera. So in the third interview, I was like, hey, maybe the product manager would know some of the things that UX should do if they're developing and, not developing, but planning and doing a product. Once again, they really didn't do much of UX or qualitative data. They did more of quantitative data. So they actually had on staff a data scientist or data analyst, whatever. I always get this confused. And so they were like super gung-ho about like, yeah, we do all this data. I'm like, well, UX designers, we do data too, right? We match the quantitative with the qualitative, right? But they were only focused on the quantitative data. They didn't look at the qualitative data. They were like, yeah, this many users are coming to our homepage, but they don't know, and doing an action, but they don't know why. And that was sort of a disconnect. And I was just asking them like, yo, are you guys open to doing these things? Like well, we've done some of that. We have, we got Google Analytics, we got this, we got that. But I'm like, that's great, but we don't understand the why part of it. We're missing that part. And she gave me an example of a time where they thought it was cool to do a certain feature, right? They just had this whole brainstorming session. They're like, we're going to implement this feature and we're going to put it out there. And so they did. And what happened? It failed. Why did it fail? Because they didn't talk to their users. They didn't ask their users like, hey, is this something that you actually want? Before you go into development and produce things, let's talk to your users and see if they actually want the things that you assume that they want. So basically, their whole app was built on assumptions initially. And so they realized like, hey, there might be some use to having a UX person. But I was asking them like, yo, what type of value do you think that UX can bring? And basically, they just wanted somebody to just come in and just make the UI beautiful. But the UI wasn't beautiful. Very weird situation. And then it was this red flag after red flag after red flag. But me being me, I was like, I really want to move to Austin. So I was just turning red flags to green flags in my mind. I was like, yep, this is fine. I can change that. I can come in. I can do all these things that they need. I just convinced myself that I could come in and I can change the dynamic of that business through UX. Boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I misinformed that is not how things work. But I convinced myself because I wanted to move to Austin so bad that this is what I was going to do. So I'm talking to my wife, we're talking about like, yeah, we can probably move at this time and move at this time. And I was like, yeah, we can do that. But so she kind of agrees like, yeah, we can do that. How much are they going to be paying? I'm like, well, basically 10 grand more than what I was making. And she was like, really? That doesn't seem like a lot. I was like, I don't care. I just want to move to Austin. I can always find a better job when I get there, right? That was my mindset. Wrong mindset, guys. Wrong mindset. I was willing to take not enough money to move across a few states just because I wanted to live in a state that I thought was cool. Don't do that. Right. And so that's when my wife had me thinking, like, you don't think that's a lot? So that's when I messed up, and I didn't do my research on Austin and the different salaries around that area. So I was like, hey, so then I came back and said, hey, can we renegotiate the salary? And they were thinking, well, how much? And so I was like, well, X amount, right? I'll tell you why I said X amount in a second. They're like, nah, we can't do that. We can only offer this. I was like, well, that's not going to work. And the reason why we had a lot of back and forth, guys, is because initially, before we even got to the renegotiation phase, they were renegotiating with me on, moving there and working, etc., because of the pandemic. They knew the pandemic was happening. They knew the pandemic was going on. I applied during a pandemic. I don't know why they didn't plan out the process a little bit better, right? So what they tried to do was this initially. So I actually got offered the job, right? I got offered the job. I got the job. I accepted the job at the low salary, right? The $10,000 more salary per year. That ties into the whole part of, like, why my wife was like, that doesn't seem like a lot, but I was like, I just want to move to Austin. And so I accepted that. And they came back and said, hey, we talked to our business partner or whatever guy. They said, for us to make this work out, because, you have to move here, and you said that you could get started, earlier, right now, work remotely. How about we make you a contractor, and then once you move here, you'll be full-time at part-time hours. I was like, what? I accepted a full-time position, salary with benefits, and then they come back and say, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to make you a part-time contractor with no benefits. Basically the total opposite of what I accepted. And that's when we got to the whole negotiation part of it, right? I was like, no, I'm gonna have to decline that. I applied for a full-time position with benefits. I'm not comfortable with, doing that. And they were like, well, let me get back to you. Then they came back and said, like, hey, we could do it, but we're gonna have you, I forget what she said, but, like, basically they said, we could bring you on full time. What day can you start? I was like, I can start any time you want. Just give me 2 weeks, right? This whole back and forth about when I can start, when I can't start, when am I moving there, when am I not moving there? And I'm thinking, like, I feel like the process wasn't a good process. I'm like, you knew I offered to work remotely, right? I even was offering to move there, but I was thinking, like, hey, let me help you guys out. I can start earlier. I don't have to wait till months and months and months to move there. I can start now and then move there whenever I need to move there, whenever my lease is up at my house. But it didn't work out that way. And that's when I came to the point where, I don't know this is going to be the job for me. It took my wife and I to talk and to argue to come to that realization that this job is not the one. And reason why I brought up the whole salary thing, because I actually was in a process of interviewing for another job, the job that I have currently. And so I got approached by a recruiter, blah, blah, blah is hiring, are you interested? I was just like, I don't know. I'm like, I just had a bad experience. I think I'm cool where I'm at. But I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm interested. Put my name in the hat. So all while I'm, interviewing, I got the job at this other place. I'm actually interviewing and going through the process at my current job. And it was very interesting how different the two companies were. It was like night and day. One company had their crap together, one company did not have their crap together. And it showed in the whole interview process because everything was through Zoom, granted, because we can't really interact with each other face to face because of the pandemic. And for some reason, they grasped that concept. They understood, like, hey, we're going to have you work fully remotely till we're able to go into the office. I was like, granted. So honestly, man, that whole interview process was super smooth. I didn't have the 3 interviews like the other company, and the only reason why I had the 3 interviews with the other company, actually, guys, it was 4 interviews, because on the 3rd interview, this goes once again, red flag, guys. I turned a red flag to a green one. The product manager just got off the call on the 3rd interview because she had a random call come in that she just had to take. So I wasn't a priority at that moment. Like, literally jumped off the call, didn't say bye, we didn't know she was actually gone. Like, we're asking questions and she wasn't there. They were like, hey, can you reschedule in the morning for another 30 minutes? I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. It's, you put on your nice face, right? I was like, yeah, that's fine. No problem. So I did that. So when I think about it, I had 4 interviews with this company. And once again, it's red flag. But, I accepted the job knowing that they were red flags and I thought I could change them. But anyway, moving forward. So all while that's happening, I interviewed with my current company. And once again, like I said, they were just way more organized. And I had 1 interview. Process, smooth, organized. Nobody got off early. Nobody did any of that stuff. It was with 1, 2, 3, 4 people, 3 UX leads and my boss. Those were the 4 people on that interview. And everybody asked their questions. They asked me to walk through my portfolio, talk through it. Of course, I was nervous. So I'm walking through it. I'm talking to it. I'm giving reasons why I did X, Y, and Z. I talked about, working with my users and surveying and going out to the random Starbuckses and meeting with these people and just getting information about what I needed to help build this product. And, while that's happening, I'm letting my personality shine through. And that's what I always do for every job is like, I'm a happy person, I'm a bubbly person. And when I interview, I like to project who I am. And that's what I did in the last job. And that's how I got that job as well, because I knew they were big on personality and that's all I exude. And my current job, they're big on personality as well, because we have a team, right? Within that team, you need to be able to work together. We're like a big well-oiled machine. If you have one rusty cog, it could damage the whole machine. So I don't want to be a rusty cog. So I slicked up, put up my oil on, had my suit on, you know what I'm saying? I'm good. And that interview process went really well, really, really well. And so I accepted job A, right? And at the same time, job B offered me the job as well, my current business, my current company. And I accepted that one as well. But in my mind, I was like, man, I still want to move to Austin. And that's when I went back and renegotiated the salary, because they were trying to renegotiate with me on time and salary as well. So I came back with my counter to try to get close to what job B was offering, but they couldn't meet it. And that's when I was just like, you know what? This is not the place for me. This is just not the place for me. And I knew that deep down inside. I just knew it deep down in my soul that this was not the place for me. but I was just fighting it because I just wanted to move to Austin so bad. And now that I think about it, I made the best decision of my life. Just to be honest, I don't have any ill will towards that last company. I don't converse with anybody there. It's just water under the bridge now. And now that I see the way my current company operates and how that company operates, it would have been a nightmare. I would have been so miserable working there. And now that I understand that, I'm so glad I didn't take that and put my wife through that situation. So that's kind of how I got 2 jobs during the pandemic. I know it's a big long rant about the whole process of the other company, but I just wanted to lay it out to you why I didn't take the job in Austin, and those were the reasons why. And the reason why I took the job in Atlanta, because I live in Atlanta, and I didn't know that Atlanta had so much to offer. I just grew up thinking like, I don't ever want to move to a super big city. I don't want to deal with all that stuff. But there's so much opportunity here in Atlanta, Georgia for UX. It's amazing. I didn't even realize how many companies come here and how many UX people are here and what the community is like. I didn't know that because I was in awe and just, amazed about Austin and my vacation there. It just helped really put things in perspective, and also talking to my wife really helped put things in perspective. This place is amazing. UX here in Atlanta is awesome. I always tell people, what? Maybe where you live may not be a good place for UX. Maybe Atlanta's a good place for UX. So that's kind of how I got 2 jobs here during the pandemic. And if it was not for that recruiter that hit me up on LinkedIn, asking me like, hey, are you interested? I would have never landed the job that I have now, the job that I enjoy, the job that I love. I love the people that I work with. They're freaking amazing. We challenge each other. We it's not like, why are you asking me that question? We do plenty of design spikes. We're trying to make our products better for the whole business as a whole. And so we collaborate a lot, and it's really helpful to just be able to not be the only designer. Because if I would have took that job in Austin, I would have been the only UX designer, and I would have been the only UX designer trying to advocate for my users to the marketing manager, who's my boss. I don't think that would have went well. I think I just would have been fighting tooth and nail just to try to do user testing, just to try to do something different, just to try to, do research. I feel like that would have been my life, and I didn't want that. So guys, that has been the video. I know it's a little lengthy, but I just wanted to just kind of let you know, like, hey, sometimes things that you think are better are not always better. It's the things that come out of left field that you didn't even consider, right? Like me getting a job where I am now, I didn't even consider, are way better. Sometimes your plans, they just don't work out, right? But something comes along and it's better than your current plan, right? And it works out way better. So that is how I got 2 jobs during the pandemic, right? It was kind of like 2 methods. I went straight to the company's website. I applied there. Actually, it wasn't the website. I think it was like a job board. And then second one was the recruiter approached me and asked me like, hey, do you want to do this? I was like, yes. Totally 2 night and day processes, 2 night and day companies. One was a startup. One was a company that's been around for 40 plus years, $1 billion business. One had a smaller team. One had a bigger team. One had, just a graphic designer on the team building an app. One had 12 UX designers building apps, plural. So yeah, guys, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to it. So yeah, that's how I got two UX jobs during the quarantine. Basically, jobs happened at the exact same time. I don't know how that happened. I didn't set that up. Maybe it's like a divine spirit saying like, "Hey, you really want to do this Austin thing? Let me show you what's really good out here. Let me show you what you really need to do." Because you're so gung-ho and your eyes are so wide open for something you know deep down inside your soul is not good for you. All because you want the glitter, the glow, this just to say you live in Austin, right? What a dumb thing for me to do, right? I would have put my wife and I through so much heartache if I would have took that job and not be happy with it, and then end up wanting to leave within the first couple months of that job. So, guys, that's been it. Like, comment, subscribe. This has been the video. Just something little. Just wanted to do a little story time for you guys. You know, that's it. Like, comment, and subscribe. And like I always say, don't just be a unicorn. Be an ugly unicorn.